Wow, it's here. It's here. Wings over Muskegon. We are super excited. I want to first thank the amazing volunteers of the Yankee Air Museum for bringing this gorgeous backdrop today. The Yankee Air Museum runs on almost 250 volunteers a week to operate these type of historic aircraft. And it's amazing. It's amazing folks, good people like these volunteers right here that keep these things in the air and do the things that we do. This is an air show, but more than an air show. It's an aviation experience tour that we're bringing here. And it started along with the desire to have an air show back here in Muskegon, also has been kind of cultivated from the visits that we've had here as part of the Yankee Air Museum. When we come to Muskegon, we're on a tour stop with a beautiful vintage historic airplane like this C-47 or our B-25 or our B-17, it has been noted that the appetite for aviation here and special events is insatiable. It has just been an absolute red carpet rollout. We just show up with one airplane and we have hundreds of people along the fence line, and we have all sorts of people wanting to take tours and fly on these airplanes. It started to seem like a natural fit for us to come over here and do something more. The museum's very excited to kick this off. And to give you a few more details, we are going to bring the whole flying fleet over from Willow Run to Muskegon as a base of operations for Wings over Muskegon. And the first 2 days, the Thursday and Friday, July 6th and 7th, will be Air Adventure Days. That will be where we will be selling rides all day for those 2 days. And then, of course, the next 2 days, the 8th and 9th, the Saturday and Sunday, will be open to the actual air show. So it's going to be a 4-day stop for us. So it's a little bit different in the sense that we want more engagement and we want more of an experience than just come watch an air show. We're one of the only organizations in the entire United States that operate these incredible aircraft, and our historic flying aircraft collection will all be here for that. That includes this C-47, our B-17 World War II bomber, our B-25 World War II bomber, our Vietnam era Huey helicopter, and our 1928 Ford Tri-Motor. So that's kind of the pace of what we're looking at. Is this will be a 4-day endeavor with the rides being the first 2 days and the air show being the second 2 days. Of course, we're planning on doing a very traditional show on the July 8th and 9th. Modern military aircraft on the ground, in the air, vintage aircraft displays, aerobatic performances. We've already locked in Rob Holland, who is a 10-time consecutive US National Aerobatic Champion. That's the type of caliber and level of performers that'll be coming here. The tickets will be limited. And tickets are going to be on sale as of 11 o'clock today at wingsovermuskegon.com, and all social will be at Yankee Air Museum. So Instagram, Facebook, and our hashtag is wingsovermuskegon for the actual hashtag.
So it's going to be a nice flight. Once we get airborne, you're welcome to come up front. I'd ask you to keep the noise down to a dull roar. Our plan is hopefully to take off to the north here and then loop out over the water, come down the shoreline one way, go back up the shoreline another way. Whatever time we have left over, we'll fly over the city perhaps. But as Jeff said, my name is Howard Rundell. I'm the pilot in command. Vaughn Bateman is with me. He's up at the cockpit now getting ready to go. As far as the crew goes, both Vaughn and I flew P-3s on active duty in the Navy and then flew them for years. In the reserves, we flew together. So Vaughn and I have flown together a lot. So Vaughn, after he got off active duty, went to fly with Republic and then Northwest and finally Delta. He was retired as a 747 captain. When I got off active duty, I was hired by General Motors Corporation as a corporate pilot, and I flew, as you can imagine, all over the world with GM for 30 years. It beat working for a living, that's for sure. In 2007, I started flying with the Yankee Air Museum after I retired from GM. It's been a great experience. Now, any pilot worth his salt will tell you flying the C-47 or DC-3 was high up on their bucket list. So this is a great thrill for me. All the pilots are volunteers so obviously we are here because we want to be here. That makes a big difference. As far as the airplane goes, this is a Army Air Corp C-47. Now, in 1935, Douglas flew the first DC-3. DC meant Douglas Commercial. And when the DC-3 was introduced, it revolutionized the airlines like no airplane had before, or for my money, since, because it was the first airplane that allowed the airlines to make money just hauling passengers. Prior to that, the only way they could make money was government subsidies. DC-3 was revolutionary in every sense: design, construction, materials, comfort, safety, speed. For 1935, it had it all. It was such a good airplane, when the war threatened, the government bought thousands of these airplanes. And between 1935, when production started, and 45, when it ended, there were over 11,000 C-47s, DC-3s. The Navy called them R-4D. The D meant it was built by Douglas. The DC-3, C-47, R-4Ds flew in all the theaters of the war by all of the Allies in every mission you could imagine, some you could not imagine. This airplane was delivered to the Army Air Corps in '44. As it is, it's a year older than I am, which is some comfort, I guess. But it never left the continental United States. It was actually built in '44, but delivered to the Army Air Corps in '45. Never left the continental United States. So technically, it's not a true warbird. When you get on the airplane, you'll see that it's configured like a troop carrier, paratroopers. It never flew in that configuration. After it was done flying in the Army Air Corps and the Air Force, at some point in time, the University of Michigan acquired the airplane, and they were using it for airborne research, developing radars and infrared sensors for the government. In 1981, the Yankee Air Museum acquired the airplane. It's our first flyable airplane that we bought, and restored it. When it was restored in typical Air Force livery. It was beautiful. It was polished silver. But when they restored the airplane, they decided to present it as a troop carrier. And so that's what you're going to see here today. Now time's going by so quickly. I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago, they adopted this more military style paint job. Who was Hairless Joe? Does anybody remember who Hairless Joe was? Hairless Joe was a character in the Little Abner cartoon series. And Hairless Joe was anything but hairless. He was this hulking caveman kind of guy. And before politically correct became important, his little buddy was an Indian called Lonesome Polecat. And Hairless Joe and Lonesome Polecat could concoct what they called kickapoo joy juice that was supposed to be able to take rivets off the side of a battleship. And you'll see a picture in there portraying this. So, you're familiar with the Doolittle raid, April 19th, 1942. Something that the Japanese never imagined could have happened. It did, because of American ingenuity and courage. Well, Jimmy Doolittle's co-pilot was a guy named Dick Cole. After he finished that harrowing mission, he signed on with the 309th 1st Air Commando Unit. And he was flying these C-47s in Burma. They were flying soldiers to the back side of the Japanese lines, paratroopers, and fighting them from the back side. When he and his crew got together to name their airplane, they decided on a strong name, and certainly Little Abner was big in the papers back then, so they chose Hairless Joe, so that's where the name comes from. Now, I will admit that I enjoy flying these flights. Who wouldn't? And it's fun for the passengers as well. But I want you to keep one thing in mind. When you look at these seats, think about 18, 19-year-olds, 20 of them getting on this thing and flying into hell. No other way to describe it. So this is a chance to get up close and personal with at least that little bit of emotion, because it's not fun and games, not fun and games at all. And take a few minutes when you get on the airplane, because there's some interesting photographs attached to the sidewalls. And one of them up front on the right-hand side is a picture of an airdrop, hundreds of paratroopers in the air at the same time. To support D-Day, they launched 600 C-47s. 600. We're standing here before one. I was just saying to somebody here a while ago, the numbers associated with the Second World War are beyond modern comprehension. And you name the subject, it was numbers that nobody could believe. but just think of that. 600 C-47s with 20 people on board. Quick, how many is that? Airborne. 12,000 paratroopers.